We ready. This is Monday, a fresh start to a new week. This is Monday, 5 days until the Canes kick off at Hard Rock Stadium against Miami of Ohio. I just want to give some thoughts about what I'm looking forward to in 2023. It's a fresh start, everybody. Are you fired up about fresh starts? The slate is wiped clean. 2023. Everybody is 0-0. 0-0 on the scoreboard. Win-loss column. What a great time. All of their goals are ahead of them. This is what I'm expecting. All right? Excuse if there's any lawnmower noise. This is South Florida. Somebody's always weed whacking, edging, cutting lawn. People are starting to panic a little bit because there's a hurricane coming. And I'm not talking about the hurricane that's coming on Friday to see Miami of Ohio. It was good to see Miami of Ohio doing some trash talking. Like talking about making something out of nothing. That poor kid got up there. These kids, they're not really ready to do press conferences or to face media scrutiny or anything, and they shouldn't have to. They haven't had media training. That goofy kid up there, the quarterback Gabbert, he answered that Oxford, Ohio is the real Miami, and the Coral Gables Miami isn't. And they're going to show them what they're going to do Friday. They might. You never know. Ball bounces weird. How's everybody's offseason been going? I wanted to tick off a few boxes here about things that I've been listening to, content that I've been watching. You guys, a lot of the guys on Twitter. If you follow Better Duck on Twitter, the toxic account. It's where the toxic takes belong. Twitter's an absolute cesspool. That guy ruined it. That egghead nerd came in. Twitter's never been worse. I think I've been on there since November of 2007. It's never been worse. It's just absolute trash. I'm on Threads too, but that's boring. Threads it's got no functions or anything. But the content that I have been paying attention to, first and foremost, I'm an everydayer on Locked On Canes, Alex Dono's podcast, video podcast on the YouTube. Usually drops good time for me, 10:30 to noon weekdays. And if there's a lot going on with recruiting, he adds a weekend show. And he's got the widest variety of guests, which I really like. He has on, your industry guys, the big boy, which is Bluestein, who's got, 50 years worth of experience in recruiting and high school football down here. So he's always great to listen to. And then all the way down, you've got Phantomus Brian, who records his podcast somewhere in like a turnpike bathroom or whatever. He's just got a plain wall behind him. I kid. I know it's tough. And then some other good guests he has on. He has on Chalupa Batman, who's up and coming, who's phenomenal. Melissa Hoodie Girl, she sometimes comes on with Chalupa. They're a lot of fun because they're new. This offseason, I think it was the offseason or maybe it was during the season, he had the GOAT, Danny Boy Canes, on to talk. So Alex takes risks, and I appreciate that. It's not just the same snobs and same industry individuals that get to give their takes. He's pretty much willing to put anybody on, that shows consistency and shows that they're putting forth effort to get their content out there. Oh, and he's had Coop on. That was a good show. And who else? Luke Cheney. Just a handful of guys. It's just a great show that it drops. It's 30 minutes long, and it drops 10:30, 11:30, noon, weekdays. It's a fun, everyday experience because I don't follow recruiting. So it just gives me and it's not like a super huge deep dive either in a 30-minute show. He's just basically glancing over what is, what's good, what's happening out there. And the next podcast or content that I listen to the Orange Bowl Boys. They're pretty much the gold standard so far for having a podcast, video show, variety show. They just don't hammer you with football. They talk about other stuff. It's funny. It's irreverent. I like the guys, Roman, Scoop, and Toast. I think they've been doing this over 5 years, so, they got a lot of experience, and their shows come out pretty good. And they're usually pretty funny, and they take some risks and do some skits and some funny stuff. And then just this last year, maybe this is my second year, but this is the first year I've been watching Coach Coop on YouTube, his Friday night simulcasts where he plays simulated games within the ACC or the Hurricane schedule, which is really a lot of fun. They kick off at 9 o'clock, and it's basically the computer demo mode or computer plays itself mode. And it's fun. It's a fun couple of hours. There's a great live chat that goes on the right side of the YouTube screen. Everybody jumps in and gets their stuff going. Fans from other teams get involved, and they get on there, and there's trash talk, and it's just a really fun experience on Friday nights. And then on Saturday nights, he takes over the controller, and it's Coop versus the computer, and a secondary gameplay of whatever the game was on Friday night. So if they play Florida State on Friday night on the computer simulation, he bounces it back Saturday night where he's got the controllers, and it's often an entirely different game. It's really a lot of fun. Coop puts a lot of effort into his content, and it shows. His stuff really looks professional. His screen is amazing. His ability to use multi-cameras, multi-microphones, drop-in effects, everything on the fly while these shows are live. It's a big, bright future for Coop. And I just want to congratulate him on the music video, the diss track that he dropped. I guess it was Sunday, just yesterday, on Miami of Ohio was a rap song. He produced, performed, shot the video, edited the video, everything. And I'm glad to see that I got up this morning and he had over 100,000 views on Twitter. And that's gigantic. There's shows on cable TV that don't have 100,000 viewers in a single broadcast. And it's a testament to the content creators. Guys are going... Coop has pretty much a professional studio inside his house that he's built piece by piece to be able to do this, to be able to have the graphics and the ability to stream live his commentary on the games to YouTube and have it look really professional. So I'm really excited about that. But let's get to the 2023 season and my expectations. Now, it shouldn't surprise you guys that I'm not going to go ballistic on here and go full rant because I really don't like doing that. Like, people are probably rolling their eyes saying, yeah. But those are for little outbursts and stuff on Twitter. Twitter's toxic. Twitter's a cesspool. And it's like a sounding board for hostility to get out all the negative feelings, negative thoughts, everything. Just spill it on Twitter. Here, I'm going to try to be a little more level-headed and a little more constructive. This is the start of the new season. Everything that's happened prior to this is irrelevant. There's a new coaching staff, pretty much. There's a lot of new players. And we just got to look at it as a fresh start. I hope the kids are looking at it as a fresh start. Last year ended abysmally. I'm not going to harp on last year. I'm going to harp on there's a fresh start. And they have a great opportunity playing Miami of Ohio on Friday night at the Hard Rock. Should be a lot of new starters and new guys coming off the bench. And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, the one thing I'm looking for, I looked for it last year, didn't really happen. And this year, I think we're going to see a big-time improvement. First, let me say that I don't have a magic number of wins. Okay, if I just throw out that I think they're going to win 7 or 8 games, that's not really indicative on whether or not the team is moving forward and improving. Because the ball can bounce funny, and the Canes could win more games than they did last year and pretty much be kind of in the same boat performance-wise because an extra point is missed or a field goal is blocked or somebody picks up a fumble and scores. So I don't get all super wrapped up in the wins. I do want to make a bowl game, but football bounce is funny. And I have different set of expectations than a set number of wins. 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. All that would, anything above 7 wins I think would be considered really, really great. But it's not going to define whether or not the team is improving. First and foremost, we need to look at the team in terms of overall fundamentals across the board. Is the offense fundamentally sound? Do they have a small collection of plays that they can execute? And by saying, there are a number of plays that they can execute, of course, when you play a great team, they take that away from you. So whether it's Clemson or whoever they face this year, you're not always able to execute fundamentals. And, playing somebody that's a lot better than you will make it look like you don't have fundamentals. But last year, the Canes really struggled with their identity, with knowing what they wanted to do with the football, both on offense, defense. I think on special teams, too. If your punter is the best player on the team, you got a lot going wrong. And that kid was good, but there's more to football than punting. On the offense, by fundamentally sound, I mean, can they get yards on first down? 2 or 3? 3 or 4? Because those 2s and 3s and 3s and 4s, as the game progresses, turn into 4s and 5s and 5s and 6s. What you can't do is lose yardage on first down. If you're consistently losing yardage in first down and consistently in third and longs, man, I don't care who your offensive coordinator is or what kind of creative play calling or, sophisticated route trees and asking your quarterback to be Dan Marino and convert third and longs consistently, you're just not going to be a very good football team. Mario knows this. He wants to build a rugged offensive line that can line up and get yardage on first down. Because if you can get yardage on first down and get it to 6 and 4 or 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 6, it's just so much easier to get it to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 versus so many times in the past couple of years, it's just been 3rd and 11, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12. And it's just not fair to the quarterback or the wide receivers or anything to be like, just consistently go out there and convert 3rd and longs. This doesn't happen in college football. Doesn't happen in the NFL much either. You got to get yards on first down. I'm still drinking coffee. Once you get yards on first down, what that is able to do is it's going to open up the rest of the offense. The big misconception out there and the impatience that a lot of fans have is they think that if you can't run the ball, that you should throw it. And that's wrong. If you can't run the ball, run the ball. Because once you run the ball, watch how these receivers that, people have said aren't talented or this and that, watch how they start opening up once DBs and safeties and linebackers have to keep their eyes in the backfield because they don't want to give up a 7-yard run. When the DBs and corners know that there's no threat of a run, they can just lock in on these wide receivers, and it becomes, just rudimentary for them to cover them because the quarterback just doesn't have time in the pocket for the routes to develop, and it's either a sack or it's a contested throw where the defensive back is able to make a play on the ball. So the first thing I'm going to look for, we can look for it on the first possession Friday night against Miami of Ohio. The Canes, because last year it didn't happen. I forget what the schedule was, but just first downs were abysmal last year. So this year, looking forward, things to look forward to. Gaining positive yards on first down. We'll know that, like in the first drive against Miami of Ohio. I'm sure that, there's going to be holding calls, there's going to be this and that, but for the most part, is the offensive line getting a push? Are the backs hitting the correct hole? And are they getting at least 3 or 4 yards on first down? It's a mirror image on the defensive side. Can you force their offense into third and longs? If you can limit their ability to move the ball on first down and get them into second and longs and third and longs, well, that's the way you build a successful football team. It's not through play calling and offensive coordinator magic. I know a lot of you guys probably believe in the movie Waterboy, where Fonzie there, Henry Winkler, the coach, has a magic playbook. But that's fantasy. These offensive coordinators, all the plays work if you have solid fundamentals. Solid fundamentals from the coordinators, coaches, and the players on the field. If you see the quarterback looking towards the sideline after every play or before every play with the game clock running down, the play clock running down to 5 seconds, 8 seconds, and the team scrambling to get plays off over and over and over and over again, that is not quality fundamentals. Same thing on defense. Defense should know this is our base first down defense. Beat your man. Limit them to a yard. Get a tackle for loss in the backfield. The Canes have a propensity over the last, since Manny or whatever, 10 years or whatever, to be able to make huge plays in the backfield and get teams in, long down in distance, but then give up a big play that nullifies it. Oh, we got them in 3rd and 17. And then they, run a play that goes for 20 yards or 30 yards or more or a touchdown. That's weak fundamentals. It's fundamentally weak. That's on the head coach, and that's on the players. Stop looking at the sidelines with your hands up. Know what you're going to do before you do it. It's not always on the player's fault either. Like these coordinators are so living inside their own heads like a video game and panicking. If you're constantly watching the play clock run down every single drive, man, there's something very, very wrong with the team fundamentally. Of course, there's situations and pressure and this and that, and it's going to happen. They're going to have delay games and have to take timeouts, but it's consistent. Can you consistently get the plays off with enough time on the clock where everybody's set and you know what you're doing? I think it's going to look big time improved this year. I don't know whether the team's going to be great or even good, but I think they're going to be a lot more fundamentally sound. On offense, we talked about that. On defense, and also on special teams. Special teams is more than just kicking field goals, extra points, punting, punt returns, and kick returns, and coverages. Fundamentals. You cannot give up big kick returns. When that happens, it's usually because somebody broke down fundamentally. Somebody left their lane. Somebody's freelancing on the kick return side, when the Canes are returning kicks, guys have to know where they're supposed to be on the field. The returner needs to know whether it's a ball that he should fair catch, that he should let go, he should return. It should all be like clockwork. And, of course, a first-year head coach like Mario was last year is not going to come together. They're going to have big-time problems. And the Canes are notoriously, over the last 40 years or whatever, not a sloppy team, but kind of an undisciplined team. They're never going to play perfect football like a lot of these senior-heavy teams that are not really ranked in the top 25 often, but all, peak in once every 4 or 5 years when the stars align and they have a roster that is full of veterans and they just don't make mistakes. But they aren't as talented. They don't have guys that can run like a lot of the players that Miami have, but they're solid fundamentals. And a team like Miami, if they kick themselves in the rear end a couple of times, they're in trouble. And that's what happens against these lower, lesser teams. You give them a little bit of oxygen, and they're going to make you pay. I think until the Canes prove otherwise, these teams, these Miami of Ohio, they're going to come into the game thinking that they can win it because they haven't seen anything different. 20 years ago, a team like Miami of Ohio would take the podium and say, it's just an honor to be on the field. We hope to be able to compete and not get any injuries or anything. But now they're getting trash talked. And rightfully so. Go out there and back it up. We're going to know on all the first drive on offense, first drive on defense, and first couple of special teams things, we're going to see wow, the team really improved. And I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to look a lot improved. I hammer Mario a lot on social media, but that's just the way it is. You ask anybody, I do believe in Mario, but I just think it's longer than a 1 or 2 year fix. I think it's more like a 5-year fix. I think there's going to be some frustrating losses still over the next couple of years. He could prove me wrong, but I think it's a 4 or 5 year fix to get the team back to where Canes fans expect. I think one of the first steps that we should acknowledge, and it's a realistic expectation, a realistic goal for the team, is stop losing to bad teams. Stop losing to the teams that you should beat by 20 points, 30 points. That hasn't been happening. That's the first step, is playing solid football, taking care of business, and beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Then step 2, the second rung on the ladder, would be more competitive with the teams that you're not supposed to beat, that you're, a heavy underdog to. You can't just go out there and quit. Now we got garbage trucks. I don't see the levels bouncing, so I hope you guys aren't getting hammered with a lot of extra noise. We got lawnmowers, garbage trucks. There was a friggin' BSO, Broward Sheriff's helicopter crash just a couple miles up from me. It's all over the news. Prayers are with the victims of that thing. It looks horrifying, my God. But my point is have realistic expectations about 2023. Okay? Realistic means they're not going to go undefeated. Realistic expectations means beat the teams that you should beat. That's not going to go perfect. They're going to lose to a team they should beat or whatever. But take that step forward where you can say in your mind, wow, the running game's starting to come together. Wow, the offensive line's starting to come together. Wow, the defense is starting to come together. And then confidence builds confidence. Each time these kids were decimated last year, they just got mopped. They just got mopped by everybody. They had a couple of moments. And I stress fundamentals because there's so many, it's not an oasis. It's a mirage? Or just like illusions. Over the last 20 years, Canes have had so many guys that are just home run threats, whether it's Duke Johnson, Lamar Miller, Philip Dorsett, Just Mike Hartley. They've just had guys, the experts and stuff call them erasers that can just take a broken play and go 80 yards. That's just not enough. It's not enough. It's great, and those type of things will put you over the top and get you a lot of notice or whatever. But you have to be fundamentally sound underneath that, and the Canes haven't been. Whether it's been Golden or Manny, they've exploited and looked to players, just explosive players, to bail them out for having a poor fundamental team. Like Coker did it with Devin Hester. He tried to play him offense and defense and returning kicks like, hey, nobody on the team can do their job, Devin, but can you go out there and single-handedly beat Louisville for us? Appreciate it. It's great if you have a Devin Hester or whatever, but imagine those teams, those Larry Coker or Golden teams, if they were fundamentally sound and you have a Devin Hester. That's when you start beating teams by 40 points. Good teams. You can't just rely on explosive playmakers. Who was it just this weekend, Friday or Saturday? St. Thomas Aquinas played Bosco. Bosco was fundamentally sound. St. Thomas was not. Whatever the reason for that, I don't know how much youth. I don't really know high school football at all. But it was obvious after the first, at the first half, you were like, oh, Bosco is fundamentally sound. Now, maybe St. Thomas has a couple more elite players. I mean, those Bosco kids, they were good players too. But the kids on St. Thomas, okay, now he finally caught the big touchdown. But they kicked the ball off, and Bosco's running it down their throats. And St. Thomas was unable to run the ball, unable to execute the passing game at all. And Bosco whooped them. St. Thomas Aquinas whooped at home. 90-something degrees out. Probably felt like 100. And Bosco was executing on St. Thomas. I was shocked. There were other games. I can't keep them all straight because I'm not a fan of these teams. But you could see it like at the high school level. You're like, wow, they're all jockeying these 4- and 5-star kids. Who's got the fundamentals? Like one guy takes over for a play. Wow, he's a 5-star. Okay, what about the other downs? Oh, they're not really executing. The other team is more fundamentally sound, and they don't have a 5-star, and they're up on the scoreboard. So we've touched on offense. We've touched on defense. We've touched on special teams, and now we need to be fundamentally sound coaching. I kind of hinted on that before with getting the plays in on time, having a team identity, having a handful of plays that are your go-to plays. This is what we run on short yardage. This is what we run on goal line. This is what we run on 2nd and short. This is what we run on 3rd and 5. And plays that you can execute, not going out there playing like Johnny Manziel and doing figure eights in the backfield and being like, oh, wow, a guy broke open, chunk it down the field, he's got it. No. That's not fundamental football. That's not going to get you past the Dukes, North Carolinas, and Virginias of the ACC or whatever conference, Miami ends up in. It's before you can beat the Clemsons and Florida State, you got to be able to beat Duke, Boston College, Virginia, Wake Forest, those guys, North Carolina, NC State. You got to be able to beat them routinely. Miami's been upside down in that. It's not all Mario's fault. He, took on not only just a sinking ship, but pretty much like the second half of the Titanic that was bobbing up and down with people bouncing off the propellers. He'll get it straight. It might, most likely not going to be straight on Friday night. There's going to be some kinks. There's going to be some big errors or whatever. But is everything moving in the right direction? Are the fundamentals coming together? Is the team improving? At the end of the year, do we feel good about the direction of the team regardless of the win-loss column? Or are we happy with the win-loss column and still gritting our teeth being like, oh, man, they lucked out in a couple games and without the fumble, whatever, they're, 500 and without this happening and this player, opponent being injured, they could still be under 500. That's a possibility. Football's a weird sport. The ball bounces weird. Refs miss calls. A lot of stuff. So in conclusion here, let me wrap it up. I'm looking forward to the 2023 season. I'm fired up. Those are the keys that I'm looking for. Fundamental, incremental, noticeable improvement on all aspects of the game. Offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. And training. I just make small, realistic improvements. Capitalize on it. Get everybody going in the same direction. And I'll probably upload another episode this week. I got the podcast set up. I'm probably going to be able to do call-ins. I think I've got that ironed out. So if anybody wants to get on, chew it up on here, let me know. And the Better Canes podcast, this episode was brought to you by Day of the Fish. Have you seen it? Watch it. Day of the Fish, exclusively at the Mullet Run on YouTube. Search the Mullet Run on YouTube, Day of the Fish. Thanks for listening, everybody.